people, especially people in our community, they need to believe in themselves and start. Because if we never believed in what we were doing, we would have quit, right? We would have never gotten to the place that we're at now. We would have just quit.
Welcome to the Fuel Hunt Show.
Welcome to the Fuel Hunt Show. I'm Joey, co-founder of Fuel Hunt, and with me, I have another co-founder of Fuel Hunt, and also my cousin, Drew.
Happy to be here, Joe. Finally made it.
How's it feel?
Feels great, dude.
Feels great. I feel like in the beginning of our journey, we turned down a lot of podcast requests to be on podcasts, requests to be on shows, requests to be interviewed about what we were doing with Fuel Hunt because we had such a focus on the community. I think that it's a testament to our growth that we're here now with our own show.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen the importance of it, right?
We were like so laser focused on the work that any smidge of limelight came our way. We were just like, no, like that's not for us. Let's just get back to work.
Yeah, I agree. I too, I feel great to be here. Physically, I feel a little off, as you can probably hear. I have a head cold. I asked Dane's here and with his team producing the show. I asked him to actually edit my audio to make me sound like Morgan Freeman instead. He said that that's probably possible.
I love that for our ratings.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this and I don't sound like Morgan Freeman, please excuse any sniffle or sneeze during the show here. So this is episode 1. Let's talk about the show for a little bit. So we'll have a few different formats, I think, for the show, right? One format will be this here, where it's you and me, we're chopping it up. Another format will be bringing on community members to tell their stories, the stories of the few. We'll do some community Q&A. That'll be another format. And then we have another top secret format that we'll reveal later. So a couple different formats to the show today. You're stuck with us, but you'll enjoy it. Don't worry. Today, we're going to talk about the origin story of Fuel Hunt. As you can see behind us, we're in Fuel Hunt HQ. This is a very special place to us for a lot of reasons. It's a historic building in a very gritty part of Philadelphia, but the story of how we got here to this HQ specifically probably could be a whole nother episode, right?
Yeah.
So we'll save that. Instead, I want to talk about 2 other places that were fundamental to the origins of Fuel Hunt. One being streets of Philadelphia, and 2 being your basement, right? Mm-hmm. A place that early on in the journey, I was not. There that often. Sometimes, yeah. But not. We'll get into that. Yeah. We'll get into that. So, let's talk about the streets of Philly first, as it relates to the origin story. Do you want to talk about what we used to do?
Yeah, let's start. I mean, because I think the perspective. I was talking to Morgan about this, but like the perspective of being side hustle entrepreneurs gives a lot of our community members and members of the few hope, because I know a lot of them are on that same journey. So I think we should.
So what did we, so do you want to kick it off with, I feel, so here's my perspective on it. I feel that Fuel Hunt, the idea of Fuel Hunt and its community was born kind of on the streets of Philly because of the conversations we used to have every day driving home from the offices. So do you want to pick it up there and start to tell the story a little bit?
Yeah. So me personally, I mean, I was in sales, which is another great profession, but I just got tired of being a boss or being an employee and being told what to do, where to be, what time I had to be there, checking into an office. I had my son, and a lot of things changed perspective wise for me. And I was like, I want to spend more time with him. I want to be at his baseball games. I want to be picking him up from school. And I realized that there was more to work and life than just being in a box from 8 to 5. And if you develop this work-life mix, as our friend Bader talks about a lot, then you don't have to subject yourself to being stuck in a box all day. So I got tired of having a boss, being told what to do, and I started businesses. Now, Fuel Hunt was not my first business, and I would call you specifically to get advice on, like, Joe, I got this business idea, because I knew you were the only successful entrepreneur I knew at the time. And I was like, cuz I got this business idea, what do you think? And you remember that? And, and you were like, you got to keep throwing shit at the wall and see what sticks. And I was like, all right. And then those conversations led to us getting closer and closer. And then it turned into us, like we always say, for lack of a better word, complaining about our current situation, our day jobs, and feeling alone in society, which led to the foundations of Fuel Hunt. And you could tell that story.
Yeah. So, you know, a lot of that commiseration or, you know, our connection, right, happened over the phone because we're both very busy people at the time, right? Fully employed, husbands, fathers, right? So those phone calls usually happened when you were on the way home from the office and I was on the way home from the office, and we were both driving the mean streets of Philly. So when I say that the idea for Fuel Hunt was born, you know, on the streets of Philadelphia, that's why, because it came up during one of the conversations that that we were having. I completely understand everything you were saying about the things that led up to those calls. You know, I had somewhat of the same feelings. My background's in technology, so, you know, which some of the viewers may know, some may not, a little different than sales. I had been programming and in technology really since I was like 11 years old. And it's a passion of mine, still is. And I had purpose in it as well. But I did have like a gnawing feeling that there was something greater for me out there. And then I also had all of the other feelings that you described, specifically with my family, you know, wanting more impact and freedom for my life, right?
What's funny though is on the family topic is like you get the freedom and the time back, but you also sacrifice a lot.
Yes.
At the same time, so it's like, but you sacrifice the time you want to sacrifice, not necessarily what someone else is telling you to sacrifice.
It's not, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs start out, they want to be their own boss and they think that it's an easier life. Yeah. The reality of it is it's not an easier life. It's just life that's more on your own terms. Yeah. You know, but a life that can be lost in an instant because the hard work really never ends, you know, whereas, you know, as an entrepreneur, I think there's, or, you know, an employee in an organization, there's a little bit more safety and structure.
Is it safety though? Like that was the one thing I tell all my friends that make that argument is like they could come in tomorrow and tell your job's no longer in need. But.
Yeah, this is true. So we used to talk, what do you think? We were talking for maybe a solid year on the phone, right? Every day on the way home from the office.
We would time the time we would each leave the office to make the, like, I'm leaving at 5:30. Like, all right, cool.
Driving through the mean streets of Philly and commiserating a little bit. I like to think of it nowadays over some reflection. I like to think of it as like we were analyzing, like we were problem solving. Yeah. We were thinking like, okay, look, we know where we want to be. We know what our current circumstances and conditions look like. Let's keep analyzing them and preparing for the opportunity. And then one day the opportunity came, right? Yeah. I don't recall the exact conversation. I do remember that it was around entitlement and feeling alone, that we had such strong feelings against entitlement when everybody else was so entitled, you know? And that's where the mantra first popped up. Everybody wants to eat but few will hunt. That was something that we would say at my cabin. You know, I'm a bow hunter, I'm a hunter. So it has a very literal meaning as well as the metaphorical meaning that it now holds. So saying that to you, it really struck a chord in you, right?
Yeah, and I was like, being in Screen Break at the time, I was like, we need to get that on a shirt just because I wanted to wear it personally. I was like, I want to wear that everywhere.
Yeah. And
I think that's what resonates with people now in the community is like, they hear our mantras and our sayings and our brand name and they're like, holy fuck, like that hits. Like,
yeah, it's a very unique way to take a stance against some of the ills in society, as well as take a stance for yourself and the power that you have within you to change your circumstances, right? So that's where the idea was born. So that's why I credit, the first place I wanted to talk about, the mean streets of Philly. That's why I credit the streets of Philly. If you know me, you know I'm a proud Philadelphian. So I am absolutely going to credit Philadelphia at some point in this origin story. But that's why I credit the streets of Philly for the idea, because we were driving. Now, from that moment, what are you thinking? Maybe another year, right? Solid year before apparel came on the scene in a big way. Because initially you said, hey, let's get that on a shirt. And we did. We got 24 of them. We gave them out to our friends and family. And it was kind of like our battle flag while we were building. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
But probably another solid year of community building only, like finding our people, finding the few, the people that believe and live the rules of the few, probably for another 12 to 18 months before apparel came on the scene, right?
At least. And it's funny, I was thinking about this the other day, but like we always say we ask the question whether we're going to be a blog or a business, but when we started, we truly like only really had the blog and vision of connecting other hard workers with ourselves. Like we were like, we need to find our people. And that's where it all came from. So when I think about it now, we didn't even set out to be like, how are we going to build this amazing business where we're going to make all this money?
Yeah.
It was really, how are we going to connect people that think like us?
Yeah. We were purpose and people first instead of product and profit first.
Which is not a good way to make money.
It is not. It is it is not a good way to earn. It is not. But I think in the long run, it's the right way to build a business. I think nowadays you have many entrepreneurs out there, and there's nothing wrong with making a shit ton of money, but that's how they come to the game. How can I make a shit ton of money, right? What can I sell? Who's going to buy my shit? And then at the end, they're like, oh, and this is why I'm doing it. This is our purpose. We're the reverse. Yeah. You know, we were purpose, people, the product came around, then we focused on the profit. Did it make the business side of Fuel Hunt a little more difficult than it needed to be for us? Yes, but I still stand by it that it was the right thing
I
to do.
wish we could say we set out with the plan to do it that way, but we did it the right way by happenstance, in my opinion, looking back.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So apparel comes on the scene, right? We are still fully employed, right? We need a warehouse. We need a fulfillment operation. You know, we need all the underpinnings of an e-commerce business, right? Now you have some background there. Obviously I'm in technology, but e-com as well. I have a little bit of a background. In the beginning, our solution was a basement in Northeast Philly, And I wish we could say that we rented a basement or rented a small space, but we didn't. What we did was we used your basement.
Yes.
A basement that I did not visit often because I think we were staying in our zone of geniuses, I think, right? At the time. So I was doing a lot of creative work and writing, right? And you were doing a lot of operational ninja work, you know what I mean, on that side. So tell the few about the basement, how it started, right? The first couple SKUs, all the way to how the basement ended when we eventually moved out. Paint the picture.
Yeah. And one note on that, thinking on to why we were in our silos is because I think we were both looking out for the best interest of each other. And I was like, you know, because you stay focused on design and creating our brand and I'll handle everything else and vice versa. And you're like, I got this. I think that if I'm giving a tip to anyone on how to be a good business partner, it's like, make sure you got your partner six. You know what I mean? Like that's what I think we were doing best for each other.
I would agree. I think you recognized the zone of genius concept, right? And even you recognized the zones of genius or the zone of genius that I have even before I did. And you did a great job of keeping me there so that we could build more momentum.
I feel like we still do a great job of that for each other to this day.
We do. So tell us about the basement. From first couple SKUs, oh, this is manageable, to what it ended up being.
So I remember being like looking at like our warehouse now, it's like, it just seems like I always envisioned it. But I remember being so proud when we set up our first, like we got our first rack from Amazon. We have 50 now or whatever. But like, I was just so proud to set that up. And I had my little workstation and like my laptop up there. And I would fill like 3 orders a week maybe when we started. Like that's literally what it was. And 3 orders turned to 20 orders, and then 20 orders turned to 100 orders. And then I was like, holy fuck, like this is like too much work. Like this is a lot. And then 1 rack turned to 2 racks, and then 2 racks turned to 10 racks. And before I knew it, I had way too many orders to pack than I could ever do myself and do the rest of the work that goes along with building a business. And my basement was completely covered in boxes and racks and shipping supplies. Like literally you couldn't walk in the back door. Like all we had room for in the basement was the laundry room. Like there was nothing else to be done down there. It was a work zone. It was about 500 to 1,000 square feet, I would say. And completely filled to the ceiling. So it was definitely a fire hazard. I think you asked me about that a few times. And then luckily, my sister Brianna, who runs all operations to this day, was also unhappy in her day job and had a lot of freedom, and came on board. And she was like, did the same thing for us. She's like, I got this. You go do what you have to do. And she helped me out helped us out at a very pivotal time in our entrepreneurial journey, and still to this day completely owns the operations for us and the day-to-day Fuel Hunt.
Yep. I do remember coming over for a shoot, because we also used to shoot in your garage. So when we had new gear, we would shoot it in the garage.
Or the backdrop in the basement.
In the basement. I remember coming over and opening the door to the basement and like immediately being met with boxes floor to ceiling. And there was a small walkway through the boxes into the main basement. So you had the laundry room there, which was clear because you had to do clothes, man. You can't walk around stinking. And then, walked into the main basement, and there was a very small area in the center of the basement to move and maybe pack. And then literally around it, floor to ceiling boxes.
Yeah.
And seeing, you used to send pictures and video of literally like Brianna climbing and Amanda climbing the boxes to get to boxes behind boxes.
There are a lot of friends that came over and helped when we needed help fulfilling orders, that I'm surprised are still my friends, because it was cruel and unusual.
It
punishment to do certain things.
It was.
Yeah.
It would break somebody.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it would break somebody.
And I remember Brianna would always ask me like, when are we getting a warehouse? And I'm like, oh, stop, Brianna. Like, you're being like, you entitled, like,
it's fine. Climb some more boxes.
Warehouse.
I also do clearly remember the fire hazard conversation with you being like, hey, look, like your family's upstairs. Like, this is a legit like fire hazard. Are there any, so that's a good job painting the picture. Are there any key moments from the basement? One I can think of, maybe Brianna packing in the snowstorm. Another when we started creating banners and like Amp bringing the truck over, and the pickup truck being like overflowing with banners as you drove to USPS. It's like, what are some other moments from the basement?
It's funny you have the two like pivotal moments, but I mean, it was actually like so fun day to day, because like I got my son involved. Like, he was, our UPS driver like knew our family by name, and like our mailman knew our family by name, and we would just literally we'd stop dinner to go take all of the orders out for the day. Brianna had left early that day because that was she was at my house from 8 to 5 almost, like working full time. So the snowstorm, there were times when the basement just got so like overflowed and just like a little bit in disarray, and like Brianna would know how that would make, like I would not enjoy that as a leader, and so like she was like always trying to like fix it right away. So she came over in the snowstorm and literally like packed all the orders for the day, and then drove them in like terrible conditions to the post office, like to literally like just like do the right thing. And I was like, bro, you didn't have to do that. But that one. And then out of nowhere, during COVID, we got our banner order just sort of like flying off the shelf. We couldn't keep banners in stock for the life of us. And we didn't have room in any of the trucks or anything. This was before the USPS and UPS pickup, because we figured that out too late. But so Anne had to come up with a pickup truck, and we literally had like 2 trips to the post office full of just banner boxes.
Yeah.
But other than that, just the people that came over, and I just want to express my gratitude for the people that helped us get to where we are today. But they're just like key people that really came through and like helped us pack orders and move things around and move our warehouses, that I just want to like thank on this first episode. So thank you to all those, and you know who you are. Yeah. But
so before we get into 2020 and that year, because that was a pivotal year for us, what do you think, aside from the stick that you carry, or the whip, right? Well, why do you think that everyone that helped us, many of them are still with us today, right? Yeah. Why do you think they endured that during the beginning when people literally were laughing at us?
I think
because that's something we didn't touch on.
Yeah.
Like, it's easy to think that everybody was like, look at these hustlers
Yeah.
out of a Northeast Philly basement. They're doing great things for the world like they do now.
Yeah.
Back then, it was laughs and jeers is what it was.
I think two things, and then we'll touch on this rule of the few in a future podcast, but to get give. So I think you and I both built up a lot of goodwill with people throughout our journeys that they felt it was their time to give back to us, or me, because like some of them being my friends. And also I think people believed in what we were doing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and believe that we were going to take this to where we say we are going to and never give up relentlessly. So I think belief in our mission and belief in us as entrepreneurs was what drove them to be so willing to help out. And a lot of times they didn't even want to be paid. I would just have to buy them lunch or something like that. But
I do agree. I think it was belief in us, and more so belief in our mission, like our mission to restore the dignity of hard work. We didn't, I failed to mention that earlier, but the mission that we're on to restore hard work to the rank and respect it deserves in society, right? We felt so alone in a society of entitlement and comfort and shortcut seeking and victim mentalities. Like we were like, where's all the power, all the hard work? Who we used to be as a society. So I think that, your friends, our friends now at the time, they believed in that. And the cream kind of rose to the top. Like the few made themselves known in our circle and they stood up to help, they stood up to help us in those moments. So 2020, a pivotal year for us. World's kind of going to shit. In early 2020, there's a lot of uncertainty. People don't know what's going on.
we were scared.
There's a outbreak of a viral outbreak of some sort, and the world is shutting down. Everybody's pulling back. Companies, people, literally everybody is hiding or being forced to hide in their homes. How did we react to that? What did we do?
We went all in. I mean, and this came from having day jobs. We were able to risk our hands a little bit more because we had our salaries or incomes to fall back on. But we were like, fuck it. Like, let's buy we knew we could get better pricing to increase our margins, which are always a challenge for us because we buy the highest quality product and sell for the lowest possible price. But we were like, let's go on a couple of runs of our best sellers for these ads. We wanted our to spread our mission and grow our community through our advertising. And we invested pretty much every dollar we had at the time, and basically cleared our account to buy our biggest run of shirts to date. And I remember getting this shipment, and I didn't have room in the basement at the time, so it filled my garage, which was my gym at the time. So I was very upset that I would have to go to Globo Gym or stuff like that. So, and I remember I still have a picture of one of our old friends that would help out, and we had like tables in my driveway and all the boxes laid out, and like Parker was there like helping, but like we were counting, checking in each shirt.
Yep.
But yeah, we bought like, I forget how many it was, a couple thousand shirts. And I remember being scared that we just literally cleared our account and risked every dollar we had, but it ended up being a very good decision.
Yeah, I think we saw it as an opportunity. We saw the chaos. We saw the opportunity in the chaos that was happening. So we saw the opportunity for better margins and more earning more money, right, means more impact.
Exactly.
And more growth for the movement, right? So we saw the opportunity for better margins. We saw the opportunity for more time, because we were now forced to be home. So that's an hour or more for each of us each day, because we're saving a commute now. So there's more time. And then also around that time, we started to figure out that if we were really going to grow the community in the way that we knew we could, we had to pay to play and we needed to start advertising. So that's also when we first brought on Adam to help us with some of our paid advertising to get our message out there. And even at that time, I remember like struggling with Adam, because he was like, hey guys, like, let's talk about your shirts and like how great they are and the quality. And I'm like, bro, you're missing the point. Like, we need community members, like join the few. Like,
and he was, still to this day, we don't ever even market it like that. Like, and people get our shirts like, oh my God, they're the softest shirts I've ever felt.
I know. So that year was pivotal for us, because in the chaos, we chose to see the opportunity. We took a lot of risks. And that was the year, 2020 was the year that we cracked 7 figures. Mm-hmm. And then I feel like that put us on the map a bit, that we started to get some attention. The community started to grow in a big way. Our community members started to become more vocal about our counter movement. You know, we say mission and movement a lot. What it really is counter movement. About our counter movement, they started to feel proud of the work that they were doing as the few, which was like gasoline on the fire.
Remember we did that picture where a lot of our OGs were doing that bicep curl. Like that was like right in the thick of COVID. Like,
Yep.
But it was like 20 or 50 of us maybe in that picture. But that was when really our brand and our movement and our company took a turn for the better. Yep,
I would agree. I think that, you know, the community was born out of feelings of being alone, right? Yeah. And during that time, those feelings of alone were very real and being very magnified because people were in their homes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Being forced to stay in their homes. So again, that poured a lot of fuel on the fire, on the Fuel Hunt fire, you know, and the community began to grow. So that was a great year. We learned a lot. 2021 also, you know, another great year for a few reasons. I believe 2021 was the year that we both left our full-time gigs, right? Mm-hmm. And it's also the year that we hooked up with Bedros, right? Mm-hmm. So each year you can see, you know, major milestones that were not the result of luck at all. You know, they were the result of risk and hard work and the pain of the basement, you know what I mean? And the discomfort of working 2 jobs and all the things we talk about in, you know, the rules of the few. So let's touch on 2021 a little bit. Do you remember the day that you gave your notice at your full-time gig? And do you remember the day after when you were full-time Fuel Hunt for the first time?
Vaguely. It was all that the past few years of my life. I mean, I've been a blur, dude. Like, I'm like, I can't even recall like all the great things that have happened. That like everything's been moving so fast. But I remember telling you like, I remember it being very hard because I loved all the people in my company. I grew a lot there as a person. So it was very hard for me to send my notice. But I remember being like, I felt that. I remember telling you this, I'm like, cause like there's just like this like feeling inside my chest that we were finally like doing something, and we finally made it, right? Like we were finally building this community. Like we had so much energy and positivity like flowing our way, and I was like, it just feels right, dude. Like I felt like complete control to do whatever I want to do, and just like for this company, and like I felt liberated, I would say. Like the next day or week, that high kind of rode out for a little while, and then there was a time I was like, holy fuck, this is hard.
Yes. Yeah, I do. It was very hard for me too to give my notice. I had been at my company for, in one capacity or another, for I would say almost 15 years. So, you know, Fuel Hunt is my first rodeo, right? I had business before. That business was absorbed by the company that I worked for at the time. I went inside there for like another like 7 or 8 years with them. And we had such a low turnover rate in my department. We had such a high tenure, 8, 9, 10 plus years.
Like family.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was very difficult. But I do remember, so I've had that feeling before where I've quit my job because I quit it in 2008 during that economic downturn to start my first business. So I there's feelings of liberation I'm familiar with, but this felt different because it didn't just feel liberating. I felt like I'd finally found like my purpose. You know, like I could actually, I was in control to actually help others in a way that I had never helped them before. So that's the one defining thing that I remember about the first day being full-time Fuel Hunt, you know. So a little bit later in that year in 2021, and then maybe we'll cap Origin off around this point,
Yeah.
and then we'll get to some takeaways. But a little later in 2021, we found out that there was somebody in our community who was an absolute savage and servant, salt of the earth human, Bedros.
Yeah.
Yep.
Best guy I ever met.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So how did that happen? Do you remember?
I remember pretty well that a picture got posted by him of giving a keynote at one of his events wearing the enemy tee that we have since resurfaced with him. But I remember, actually, I recall that a friend of ours, one of the few, was going to his gym to deliver a flag. Noah from Stars and Stripes Company. Yep. Shout out to Noah. And
got his flag hanging over there.
We did a giveaway with him, and him and I have connected, and you as well. Like, just another great guy. And he was, for no reason at all, he said, "I'm about to go to Bader's gym. Like, do you know him?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know Bader's. Like, a big fan." And he's like, "I'm gonna deliver this flag. Do you want to send me some gear? I'll give it to him." And I was like, for what? Like, we didn't do anything for you. And he was like, just because. And he gave him that gear, and the enemy tee was not one of the shirts that I had given. I had given him other shirts. And I never heard anything from it. I given a box for Noah and a box for Bader's. And next thing you know, the picture gets posted of him being on his account giving a keynote in the enemy tee. And I was like, holy, like what? Like, and I remember sending it to you, and we were like, dude, this is like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's when we found out that, he was a customer, which B openly talks about all the time. Like, I was a customer before I was a partner or an investor. So that was cool. It was a high moment for us to see someone of his caliber, right? In not only the entrepreneurship game, but also in the personal development game, someone of his caliber that believed in what we were doing, that believed in our mission. So even then, I feel like we did reach out and we just kept him laced up. We never asked him for anything. No. We never asked him for anything. And I think that's what led to a moment months later in 2021 where, I remember vividly, I was in my basement. I was designing a shirt for Shane. Shout out Hurricane Shane Burgos. I was designing a fight shirt for him, and B sent me a DM, and he was like, "Hey, I really fuck with what you guys are doing. If there's any way that I could ever be involved in it, I'd be open to that."
Yeah.
Which was amazing.
Wow. My head was spinning.
Right. Wild. So fast forward, a week, we got on the phone. Fast forward another 2 weeks. Yeah. We're out in Chino at his HQ, meeting the team, meeting Di, meeting Bryce, and handshake agreement that he would join us on this mission as a partner. Yeah. So that was another, aside from becoming full-time Fuel Hunt in 2021, another shining moment of 2021. And from there, it's been the same grind, if not harder.
Yeah, I would say it's harder.
I think it's gotten exponentially harder for every, and that's the cycle, right? For like every way that we've gotten smarter with our work, the type of people we always set bigger goals that we have to work harder than to get smarter again, Yeah.
And I remember when I used to say to you, I'm like, God, if we could just get here, like, and then we get there. And if we just get here though, like then it'll be good. And then we get there.
Yeah, we still
new levels, new devils.
Yeah, we still play that. We still play that game sometimes, but it's just the type of people we are. There's always going to be a bigger vision. I think, you know what I mean. As our sphere of influence or our like cone of impact like widens, we set bigger goals and bigger visions for ourselves. So let's bring it around, right? Let's bring it around here. Two things that I really want to ask. So the show here, the Fuel Hunt show, we went over some of the formats earlier. We know that this show is for the few, not just the Eagles that are in our community now, but the Eagles that we want to bring into our community. It's a way for us to get our rules of the few out there, our counter movement out there, so we can attract more people, right, to the community and grow it. it furthers our counter movement and our mission of restoring the dignity of hard work. Inside of that mission, restoring the dignity of hard work, right? Our big vision. Inside of that, is there a personal goal that you have for the show?
Yeah, for me personally, I hope with this show we inspire members of the few and people to just chase their dreams. Because one thing I've learned realistically too late in life is that we only get one shot here and it could be gone tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So just do what makes you happy. Yeah. And that's what I hope to do.
Great. I love that. From my side, you know, I feel like I agree with you. Life is short and life is sacred, right? And I think that, you know, if I look at my purpose, why I was put here, I think I have the ability to see potential in people, right? And if I had a personal goal for the show, it would be to help the members of the few see and seize their full potential, the full potential that's inside of them. Because in the world we're living in, they're distracted, they're put down, they're segregated, they're alone. They no longer believe in the power that's inside them, and it keeps them from chasing their dreams. Yeah. You know, so I really want to, you know, personally through the show, help people see and seize their full human potential, that power that's inside of them. So there's some personal goals that we have nestled under our big banner of restoring the dignity of hard work. Second question, and then we'll tie it up. A piece of wisdom that you want to leave the few with, that you learned throughout this origin story, throughout this journey, from 2017 when we first birthed the idea on the mean streets of Philly, all the way till 2021 when we quit our full-time jobs and met B. And is there a piece of wisdom in there that you want to share?
My wisdom to impart on the few is that it's going to take longer than you think. It's going to be harder than you think, and nobody cares. So you should just keep working.
Solid advice. Yeah. Solid advice. Let me leave them with a piece of wisdom too. I think that a lot of people really fail to start today because they're afraid of, you know, the risk. They fear the risk. They fear failing. They fear the opinions of others, being judged maybe. And they don't start. They never chase their dream, right? They never have the opportunity to work hard because they never start. So if I'm going to leave the few with a piece of wisdom, I think I'll take it from, I have a wooden sign that hangs in Everly's room, my oldest daughter. And it says this, it says, you're braver than you seem. You're stronger than you believe. And you're smarter than you think. Those three things. I think that people, especially people in our community, they need to believe in themselves and start. Because if we never believed in what we were doing, we would have quit, right? We would have never gotten to the place that we're at now. We would have just quit. So those three things, that's a mantra that I think that everybody, especially those in the few, should revisit every day to change their mental wiring, to get them to keep growing and keep going. No. So anything else that you want to mention about the origin story here?
No, I think we covered it all. How long was that?
I don't know. I think we should have been setting a timer. I was glancing at the clock here. Like, we're amateurs with this. We're just figuring this out.
Like, just telling stories for like.
I know we can. So we'll tie this up. We'll be back with another special episode coming up where we start to cover the rules of the few. If I could leave again the few with a little sign off, I think I would say, but take some wisdom from maybe the rules of the few, right? And I would say, always choose effort over entitlement, right? Always choose hard work over handouts, right? No one owns you. No one owes you. You're one of the few. All right, bro. First of many.
Yeah, let's go.